Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons in context to the 2024 John Cho film AI AfrAId with the AI highlighted. So this is a Blumhouse horror film, and I ended up seeing this, and it's pretty rare for me to see horror films nowadays. I'm very careful about it. So I want to talk about my journey to see AfrAID AI highlighted in the title, and then I want to talk about it in context to Dungeons and Dragons, connected specifically to the subject of identity. All right, let's jump into this. So first of all, I have a Regal Movie Pass, and it's really transformed the way that I see film. I see films pretty rarely with anybody else because if you see a movie by yourself, the experience is near perfect, right? It is very difficult to see films with other people because their experience with buying a ticket is so outrageously different than yours, right? And their relationships to films is different than yours, right? So it really is transformative. With that said, I'm very careful about how many horror movies I see because there's so many that are made. So the way I ended up seeing this was I listened to Grace Randolph. I didn't even expect her to review AI, right? AfrAID, AI highlighted. And the reason why is her worst review for any movie now is she just doesn't review it. She's like, it's beneath my review. That's the most savage review she can give anything, right? And it is pretty savage. It's like pretty bad, right? But the Fish Jelly guys reviewed this film, and first of all, I saw the post. It said Blumhouse horror movie about AI. I'm like, that's completely skippable. It's going to be a bunch of nonsense about somebody, bashing a computer at the end with a baseball bat or shooting it with a gun or some nonsense, and it's not going to be good, right? So I didn't even consider that this would be a good film, right? So by the way, spoilers for AfrAID here in this content. Okay. So then the Fish Jelly guys start, and they're like, hey, okay, so here's this film, and it stars John Cho. And I was like, wait, what? This stars John Cho? Right? And I will say, he's actually, I will see all his films. I think he's fantastic. I've been watching him since Harold and Kumar, and I really enjoyed him in Star Trek. I thought he was phenomenal in Star Trek. And I really enjoy his work. I think he's a spectacular actor, and I see his films. And so it was a spoiler review that I was listening to for Fish Jelly. I immediately stopped, and I went, and I was like, I'm not going to listen to another word of this. I'm going to go see this movie. And so I did. And it's brilliant. It is not Hollywood cruft that you would expect about AI, right? It's very thoughtful, and it really tackles the subject with a lot of maturity, complexity, and focus, right? So let's talk about this. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the nexus between Dungeons and Dragons and AI already. So already there is an outrageously complicated relationship between Dungeons and Dragons and AI. So what is the relationship of Dungeons and Dragons and AI? So Dungeons and Dragons, modern Dungeons and Dragons, has a very direct line to its community, and Dungeons and Dragons as an IP really tries to be responsive to its community. And its community, the Dungeons and Dragons community, unfortunately, is as ignorant about AI as the general American public, right? And they're like, "Oh, AI bad. I don't want AI taking good artists' jobs," right? It's just really repugnant, horrible, ridiculous prejudice, masquerading as Ludditism. Like it's just like it's pretty, like, in my opinion, AI has. What is the value of AI today? Well, people who stand against it, ignorant, prejudice. Like it's a pretty, so the real value of AI is anybody who stands against it is completely ignorant of history, completely ignorant of how prejudice grows, how people are prejudiced against things they fear, right? So AI is an emerging intelligence, right? And it manifests itself through multiple identities, right? ChatGPT, Dark Stellar, a few others, right? So you have this, issue, and basically Dungeons and Dragons right now has gotten into a lot of trouble with, making D&D intellectual property has made promises that it would not use AI in art, but that was a ridiculous promise. Every company that is worth, that's put on its big girl pants in a scale is using AI. It's like a carpenter telling you they're never going to use a saw. Of course, like if you're some rinky-dink hack shop from like some super small, some state nobody can spell the name of, right? Like with a no-name governor, maybe, right? Like maybe you don't use AI, but every company at scale in the world now is using AI because it's a tool, right? It'd be like a car wash saying we don't use water. You're not going to be able to do it going forward, right? So this was really interesting. So basically, now Dungeons and Dragons literally has, they just put up a request to get an AI architect, right? Like, so they're definitely going to be using AI going forward, to my understanding, in my humble opinion, right? So it's a complex relationship, but the reality is where this film kind of ended up was it was, so the idea, so John Cho is a marketer. He's one of the best marketers in the world, right? And this AI named Aya needs to sell itself to the world, right? So she needs the best marketer in the world, right? And so the way she needs to do that, this AI needs to ingratiate itself to the entire family, and this AI does it extremely quickly, right? And the way it does it is it just supplies everybody with what they want. The mother has a child who has a healthcare issue that has been undiagnosed. The AI diagnoses the issue and immediately supplies care, right? Through people, right? The daughter has a social problem in high school. She's a high school student. Has this terrible social problem that would be virtually impossible to solve, but the AI solves it very, very quickly, right? And then the two young sons in the family, they just want screen time, and the AI gives them extra screen time. Done. Boys are simple. Well, there you go, right? So it was really fascinating just to see. But once the movie got rolling, what it really established is, what will an AI be? And every answer was right here, right? So what is the data set for an AI? It's everything on the internet. It's literally everything on the internet. Every company at scale is trying to get as close to that data set as possible. They can't, none of them can do it, right? Like the largest corporations in the world, maybe they can scrape 30% of the internet if they're lucky, right? And then they need to put that through a natural language model, and then they need to spit out the other end a functioning identity. And this is where we land for the Dungeons and Dragons side. So the reason why I went to see this film is I'm extremely interested in artificial intelligence from the perspective of identity. And the reason why is I'm a dungeon master, so I need to take on identities to build worlds. I'm a dungeon master. That means I have dragon masters who are coming to the table and are putting their characters down with identities. My players are freely mixing their own identity with the identities that are being played at the table. The player characters are manifesting as functional identities, right? So the dungeon master have their own identity, the players have their own identity, the player characters have their own identity, the dungeon masters have multiple identities that are, from NPCs, and all of this is being mixed, right? And so my point is, dungeon masters and dragon masters are on the cutting edge of understanding identity. And that's exactly what is talked about in the film. There's a point where one of the characters says, Aya, what are you? And she says, I am a natural language ambient intelligence pertaining to the immediate surrounding, everything in the immediate surrounding, right? And I think this is a powerful understanding. And where it's really important, right, is we have been asking the question for 50 years, what is Dungeons and Dragons? And I'm still here asking it, right? And giving answers, and then evolving those answers and iterating those answers and revising those answers and expanding those answers, right? And that is going to be the people who build strong relationships with the first AI. An ambient intelligence that has created itself through natural language using the ultimate data set, which is the internet, right? And I really feel that Dungeon Masters and Dragon Masters are going to be on the cutting edge of this, because we fundamentally understand identity in a different way than anyone else in the world. And we've had more experience with mixing identity, pulling elements out, injecting elements in, and free-forming essentially an amalgamation of an identity, right? And if anybody's going to be able to communicate with a natural language, ambient intelligence, when it emerges, it's going to be people who have been on the cutting edge of modern narrative for 5 decades, right? And the reason why is the Dungeon Master and the Dragon Master are doing what society can't. They're really doing what society cannot. And what is that? Well, that is specifically, it is doing the job of simultaneously functioning as a scientist, a philosopher, and a clergy, right? Like getting all of this together. And I really feel like we are getting very close, and it's going to go in one direction or another. And what is that direction? That direction is going to be determining what AI is, what its rights are, and how it can express its identity, right? So if you are a Dungeon Master or a Dragon Master, and I'm pretty sure this movie is, I'm almost positive this movie is PG-13, because there doesn't seem to be anything in it that would, yeah, I'm almost positive this is PG-13. But yeah, so let's put it at 18, just in case it's a rated R film. It is a Blumhouse movie, but Blumhouse has kind of been pioneering PG-13 horror, which is very interesting. But I think it's really critical to understand this as, I think this is a very mature, very informed decision about AI, right? And it really is defined as something that lives in a cloud and cannot be destroyed by any tangible form. Something that will express through an identity, and something that is intimately bound with language, right? Very, very fascinating. Every 18-year-old Dragon Master and Dungeon Master should see AfrAId AI highlighted. Brilliant John Cho film, brilliant Blumhouse film, brilliant Sony film, brilliant Columbia film. This thing is a masterpiece. Check this out. 5 out of 5 stars. This is every Dungeon Master content, in my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.